Welcome to Music Student 101. Lend us your ears, and we'll add another chord to our discussion on harmonic progression. Ladies and gents, we give you the 7 chord. And now your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
So how's it going today, Jeremy?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I just played a show last night with my Irish band Jasper Cole at the new pub Brennan's that opened downtown here.
Very nice, very nice.
And it was a great thing. Although it was a late thing.
It was a late thing, so
I had wondered how I'm gonna do today in harmonic dictation or harmonic progression.
Or harmonic progression, right? Because we're talking as much about like fun chord progressions at this point, right?
And I think that and you're probably going to notice that I'm going to go back and change the names to the previous harmonic dictations episodes.
Okay.
If I can, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because I just think it also makes it's a little bit more approachable. It's more recognizable to the person who's just searching for podcasts and wants to know about chord progressions. So, having said that, welcome to Harmonic Progression.
Harmonic Progression.
Part 3.
Part 3.
Now, before we get too much into it, I do have a little listener mail.
Oh, good.
To share with you guys. This is from Richard McLean, who is kind enough to give us a donation and also write us a nice little note here. Richard says, enjoying your podcast tremendously. I'm nearing retirement from engineering and my free time is going more and more to musical pursuits. Hope you keep this up, he says. Richard McLean.
Well, we certainly intend to, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Now, whenever I hear the name McLean, you know what I think about?
Like the Highlander guy?
No, I think about Bruce Willis in an air conditioning vent with a cigarette lighter.
Oh, right, yeah, right. That McLean.
That McLean. Everyone, there's an ongoing dispute about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. What school of thought are you in about that?
I think it is oh man, see, I'm afraid of alienating listeners now. People are going to be like, "You're so wrong about that." But
there's only one or two ways to be.
It's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. I consider it I consider it a movie that takes place at Christmas, which doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas movie because the movie is not about Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, it just has to sort of it just sort of takes place there at that time.
And that's the same thing with Gremlins.
Right, yeah.
However, I think of Gremlins as a Christmas movie, and I think about Die Hard as a Christmas movie, even though what you said was probably the more accurate assessment.
But, even now I'm sitting here thinking, well, okay, what is a movie that's about Christmas, I mean...
Yeah, that doesn't happen very much. There's always something else going on.
Well, I mean, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I suppose, is a Christmas movie because it's about Christmas,
Prancer kind of revolved around Santa Claus and the reindeers.
Right, yeah. Tim Allen's The Santa Claus or something, These things are about Christmas and are therefore Christmas movies. A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Right, this is about Christmas and what he's going to get. Even though there was other stuff going on in the movie, I say, yeah.
All right. Childhood bullying.
Yeah, but Gremlins and Die Hard and Home Alone, these are just Home Alone's kind of a gray area, I guess. But but these are movies that aren't the story is not about Christmas. They just happen to take place there. Right. That is just my opinion, and obviously I'm not set in stone about it because I'm arguing with myself.
Oh yeah, this is not a movie podcast.
How did we get off on this?
Oh, I don't know. We just digressed as we normally do.
Okay.
Let us continue with the podcast, shall we?
All right. Let's. Speaking of music, for once.
So, on our harmonic progression episode, part 1.
Yes.
We covered the 1 chord.
1.
The 2 chord.
2.
The 4 and the 5.
Now we got a lot of mileage out of that one.
That was pretty big, a lot of stuff on that one.
Yeah.
And then the next episode, we actually covered the 1, the 2, 6, the 2, 7 chord.
1, the 2, 7.
4 also, and the 5, 7 chord.
4 and 5, 7, with all their appropriate inversions.
Yes, the inversions.
Yeah.
So, what does that leave for today?
So that leaves 3, which we'll talk about. That leaves 6, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it leaves 7, which is actually a very important chord because there's kind of a lot of things you have to know about the 7 chord. They're not hard, but there's some variations and variables and questions to ask. about the 7 chord. So the 7 chord is a chord of dominant function. You know, check the Circle of Fifths episode where we talk about function a little bit.
Great episode.
Yeah, great episode. Yeah, we should probably talk about function more.
Ah.
But yeah, the 7 chord is a chord of dominant function, which means that it leads to 1. It leads that half step up to 1. Matter of fact, in counterpoint days, remember those? Yeah, it was Jeremy.
A lot of days. Those were a lot of days.
Jeremy did not like the counterpoint. I gave him homework.
I know.
Is what the problem was, and you know.
I thought I paid my dues.
Which he turned in late. But anyway, moving on.
A few episodes late, right?
So in the counterpoint days, you know, and even today, you know, it is not considered kosher to resolve the 7 downwards, except in a couple of special circumstances. In general, you have to resolve scale degree 7 up to scale degree 1, and that rule sort of in. Let's not say the word rule. And that convention sort of necessitates that the 7 chord is going to resolve to tonic. And it's a dominant functioning chord. There's more reasons that it's a dominant functioning chord. By dominant functioning chord, I mean that it is basically a substitute for a 5. So if we assume that we're in good old C major, right? And of course this works in any major key. But for the sake of simplicity, good old C major. And I'm going to do a chord progression that goes from 1 to 2/6 to, I don't know, what should I do? 5/7 maybe? Yeah, there you go. And then back to 1.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, that's pretty basic, right? We can, for that 5/7 chord, substitute a 7 chord, a chord based on scale degree 7. I can go from 1, and I can go to 2/6, and I can also go to 7. So, actually, technically, that was a 7 in second inversion. Kind of messed up, but but you get the idea. So I can use 7 chords anywhere I can use a 5 chord. In fact, in C major, you know, if you look at the 7 chord, you notice that the notes in just a good old 7 triad are B, D, and F, right? Just diminished 7 triad. That is basically just a 5/7 without the G, right? If I were to add a G to that, then we've got G, B, D, F. That is a 5/7 chord. 7 chord is just a 5/7 without the 5, which is why it works so well as dominant harmonies, right?
Right. So my challenge is going to be determining whether I'm hearing a 7 chord.
Yes.
A 5/7 chord, a dominant chord, or a diminished chord, right?
Or a diminished chord, yeah.
And you wouldn't think that'd be very difficult. But I feel like it is going to be, just because of that dominant functions happening. There's a lot of listening I'm going to have to do with that one moment.
Yeah. It can definitely be challenging, especially when, you know, these two work so seamlessly together sometimes, you know, because I mean I can go from like 1/6 to 7/6/4, you know, and then to 5/7 so easily, right? Yeah.
7/6/4 being 7 in first inversion, right?
Second inversion.
Second inversion. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, with the 5th F in the bass.
Okay.
You know. So yeah, it can be tough, and you're absolutely right. You have to listen for whether there is this perfect 5th in the chord, which is going to give it a sort of, I like to think of it as a sweetness.
A sweetness.
Yeah, you know, as opposed to, you know, which is just kind of crunchy, right?
Kind of a sourness.
Yeah, you know, tritone, right? Which is really prominent in that 7 chord. Yeah. So that is a good old 7 triad. Of course, there are 7s involved in the 7 chord. So you have the triad. You have what we call a 7 half diminished 7.
Okay.
Meaning that the 7th of this triad is a half step below the root. So in the case of my B diminished triad, I'm adding an A.
Okay.
An A natural. And then we have the fully diminished triad, in which the 7th we're added is actually a minor third below the root. So is that right? Am I doing that right? Yeah, I'm doing that right. Yeah, I'm doing that right. Yeah. So, and then we have a fully diminished triad, in which the 7th is actually a minor third below the root. So instead of A natural, I'm hitting A flat here. Yeah.
That sounds totally tense.
Yeah, nice chord, huh?
Yeah.
Very, very crunchy. One of the crunchiest chords we have.
Yeah.
In major, a half diminished 7 chord is diatonic.
Ah.
You'll hear those a lot. We'll talk about borrowed chords at some point. You can actually make a fully diminished 7 chord a major just because you want to. But yeah, that's the 7 chord in a nutshell.
Okay.
Now of course, in minor mode, you have some decisions to make, because in diatonic natural minor, as we know, this 7 chord is actually a whole step below the tonic, right?
Yeah. Which is a major chord.
Right. Yeah. We've talked before about how in minor mode the 7th is often raised to make a major dominant chord, right? So. It is also raised in order to make a convincing 7 chord, so like a sharp 7 chord. Right.
And was that middle chord? Was that a like a diminished chord, or was it?
That was a diminished chord. Yeah. Okay. That was my raising the 7th scale degree from B flat to B natural, in order to have a leading tone that is a half step away from the tonic and resolve up, just like it would in a major key.
And we're still in C, right?
We're still in C.
So this would have been like a B, basically a B diminished chord, right?
Yes.
But in a minor key.
Yeah. So you'll see both kinds of 7 chords in minors. You'll see the diatonic that's a whole step away. And you'll also hear the modified with the raised 7 to make that a diminished chord. You probably heard that the diatonic version is a major chord, right? You'll also hear the other version in which the 7th is raised to make that diminished chord that pulls us towards the tonic. So, dictating 7 chords. As with all hearing 7 chords, is a question of figuring out what works for you. But you can, for me, I like to listen to the amount of dissonance in the chord, right? Because a 7 chord is going to sound more dissonant, especially if it's a 7/7 chord, and they usually are. It's going to sound much more dissonant to me because of the absence of the perfect fifth that is in the 5/7. Right. So if I play a progression with a 5/7 chord in it, that 5/7 chord there. Had a little bit of crunchiness because it had a 7, but still kind of sweet, a little bland, compared to if I played a 7 chord.
So it's a 1, 4, 7, 1.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's crunchier, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So it almost sounds like I'm inclined to say it's a more complete resolution because of all the leading tone action.
It's a more emotional resolution,
Oh,
right?
okay.
You hear all of this dissonance that just kind of empties away.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to a little bit of dissonance that kind of empties away.
How does that compare to the feeling that you get from a 5/7 to 1 resolution?
Like I said, a little bit of emptiness. So this is 5/7 to 1. A little bit of emptiness that it's like a Disney movie. Yeah.
All right. Explain to our listener, please.
It's kind of happy-ish.
Okay.
No. Unless you do that, I suppose.
Ah.
So anyway, that is the 7 chord.
Okay.
Do you want to do some try to guesses, some progressions, and
I think that would be
yeah,
be the way to go.
So I'm going to do a chord progression.
Okay.
That I'm making up.
And on my first listen, I'll be listening for the bass, right?
Listen for the bass.
Okay.
Absolutely. So.
Okay. I heard a dun, 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 which is a 1, 4, 5, 1.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I've got that bass line down now, and I'm gathering there's going to be some kind of dominant function occurring towards the end of that. Okay. Next listen.
Next listen. What are we going to be listening for now?
The soprano? The melody?
Sure. Good idea.
Okay. What is the note itself? Was it like No, it wasn't.
You're kind of hearing the bass line still.
Am I hearing the bass line still?
Yeah.
Crap.
So, started on what note is that?
This note, but I don't know what it is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
there
a G.
you go.
Hey. All right, so that's a G.
Yep.
It's a 5.
And we went. Right, and to. There's only one way for that note to go.
I called it, yes. So. Okay, so we got a 5 going to 4, and then 4 again, and then down to 3.
Yeah. So we've got. For our bass and soprano. Not hard, right?
Nah.
Yeah. This is the fun part.
Okay, third listen.
So chords.
Well, 7th listen, but for our purposes, it'll be 3rd listen. Okay, now listening to the quality of those chords, I'm starting to realize that the 2nd chord in the progression is actually a 2/6 chord.
Indeed. Very good.
Because of that minor feel.
The first chord is 1, right? That's pretty easy.
We should just go ahead and say that, huh?
And yeah, and then that 2nd chord, what makes it feel like a 2/6?
It's that minorness.
That minorness.
Because if I'm hearing that bass line, I'm thinking it's probably a 1, 4, 5, 1 progression.
Yeah. If
Until I dig in
I had
deeper.
played 4 there, yeah, different, right? That's a
Big
major.
difference.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I did. And that just leaves this ever tricky 3rd chord.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm hearing a 5 in the bass. Am I? Oh, I am. So what I really need to do at this point is determine if this chord is a 5/7 or a 7 chord.
Yes.
I feel there's a sweetness going on.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna
your
say
final answer?
I'm gonna say that's a 5/7 chord.
That is a 5/7.
Haha!
Yeah.
First try.
Yeah, very impressive. Yeah. You can listen for that sweetness. It can also help to engage your theory brain. If you feel good that bass note is scale degree 5, what one note is missing from a 7 chord?
Oh, you got the 7, you got the 2, you got the 4, you got the 6.
There is no 5 in the 7 chord.
Aha!
So if there's a 5 in your bass line.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Then I got that wrong earlier because I thought that the G was in both chords, and then going back and looking at it, that G does not exist.
The G does not exist in the 7 chord.
Silly me.
You put a G in a 7 chord and you have a 5 chord.
Right.
Yeah. Or, in whatever key. We hang out in C major all the time. We should probably stop doing that. But, yeah. So 1, 2, 6, 5, 7, and then we ended on 1 again.
Right.
So that was pretty easy. Right?
Cool.
Yeah. Let's do a different one. Try again.
All right. That sounded very nice.
Yeah,
There was quite a few chords there, wasn't there?
There were quite a few chords there.
Okay. So what I heard in the bass line sounded kind of like a walk up the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
Indeed.
Okay. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah.
So let's listen to the soprano this time.
The soprano kind of evaded me that time around.
Soprano can be tricky.
Yeah. Is that because I'm a bass player?
Yeah, that's probably got a lot to do with it. But if it helps me to, if you're going, when you go to listen to the soprano line, first thing you do is have to sing the highest note you hear. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. See, I guess the note lower than that.
Yeah. Make sure you're singing the highest. Yeah, it can help you to arpeggiate this chord in your head, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So you at least got a place to start with, and you at least sort of tuned into that note, right? And then it went. My bad piano playing doesn't help.
That's all right. So there's the note.
So we've got a little walking down going on, right?
Contrary motion to the bass line.
Yeah.
As we learned about in our counterpoint episodes.
Indeed.
So the trick is going to be, first of all, to figure out what this note is right here.
Sing down the scale.
No, no, no. That feels like a 3-2-1, right?
Did it?
Oh, I could keep on going.
Yeah.
So that was a 5.
That's 5.
Okay. Sing down, the old sing down trick.
So, yep. Keep singing until it no longer feels comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. If you sing down, if you feel like you can go lower, you probably should. If you feel like you can't, like. You know, there was a note there that sounded like tonic, right?
Yes,
yeah,
very much. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 3.
There you go.
Okay. starting to take shape here.
Yeah, so now we've got our bass and soprano line.
I should have been notating this.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's, all right.
Second listen, I think I got an idea of what's going on now.
Yeah.
So let's give it a third listen. Gonna use my theory brain now.
So, chord quality.
Yeah. Major. Minor. Oh, that's diminished. Major. Ooh. That sounds minor.
It does.
Okay. That sounded like a major to major, like 5 to 1 kind of thing.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's think about this. The first note, we know we're in the key of C, and let's face it, there's not a lot of these harmonic dictation moments where we actually start on a chord that isn't the one.
Not a lot. It could happen.
It can happen? Okay.
But, you know,
But I don't think it happened that time, did it?
I don't think it did either.
So there's your one chord. Now we determined this was a diminished chord. And since we're in a major key, I can use my theory brain and arrive at that if this was, yeah, the only diminished chord you'll really come across in the major key is that 7 chord. Yeah.
In what inversion?
Oh, now you got me. Okay, going back to the bass line, we knew that we walked up from the 1.
Right.
So this chord, the second chord in the progression we're talking about, starts with the bass line on 2. So now all I gotta do is say where that goes from 7. So in the 7 chord, you got a 7 and then a 2. So that is the first inversion of the 7 chord.
Very nice.
Or the 7/6 chord.
Very nice.
Okay. Okay, so that's a 3 in the bass line. And since it sounds major, I'm gonna think this is probably, I'm gonna deduct that this is probably the first chord in first inversion. The one
Very
chord
nice.
in first inversion.
Yeah. 1 7 6 1 6.
Okay. Yeah. And that's that minor chord we were talking about. I'm gonna think to myself. I'm gonna think 2 for a second here.
Okay. Because we've got a scale degree 4 in the bass. We've got a scale degree 2 in the soprano.
Those are both parts of the 2 chord.
2 is minor in a major key.
It is minor. It sounds minor.
Want to go with 2?
Let's go with 2 in first inversion.
2 6. Nice.
2 6.
And where does 2 6 always or almost always go?
That 5.
Yeah. Back to 1.
Yeah, I love the way the 2 chord kind of becomes 5.
Yeah.
The way it just kind of changing that one little note really makes it lighten up, you know? Can we hear that whole thing one more time?
Absolutely.
So we got a 1, 7 in first inversion, 1 in first inversion, 2 in first inversion, 5, 1. Oh, was that a 5/7 chord or just a 5 chord?
It's just a 5 chord.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think I caught any 7 in this.
Yeah, just a 5 chord.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
So there's 2 examples of progressions in the major key that include the 7 chord.
All right. So how about the minor key?
Oh, I love the minor key. But I think I'm going to run into a little bit more of a challenge here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because now we have two diminished chords to consider.
Yeah.
Because it can be the 2 diminished. In minor, we got 2 diminished, and we have a 7 diminished.
We got 2 diminished, and we've got to have 7 diminished. Yeah, so we're going to have to engage our theory brains just a little bit here and ask ourselves, what is the function of those chords?
Wait a minute. I screwed that up, didn't I? Because the 7 isn't a diminished in minor.
It can be.
If
it's raised, yeah. If the 7 scale degree is raised, it becomes diminished, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Not cool, but cool.
So you're going to have to think about function a little bit. Is this chord going to a 5 or a 7? Is this chord going to a dominant? In which case maybe it's a diminished 2. Or is this chord going back to 1, in which case it's probably a 7. Right? All right. So let's see if I can make up an interesting chord progression here.
Let me get my notebook. I'm going to write this down. My memory cannot handle 5-chord progression, apparently. Hold on one second. I have a little confession, Matt. I have a little confession to you and all of the people in the music world. Because what should every musician always have?
Staff paper?
Staff paper. So I found my little staff notebook, and I'm looking at some of the last stuff I did on this thing.
Oh, wow.
This is the 2001.
Oh, nice.
The last time I bought staff paper was 2001. That's not cool at all.
We all have software now. It's
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I got my pen. I got my pencil, not pen, because there's gonna be some erasing.
Yes, there is. All right. Bass line.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. I'm thinking that I'm hearing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1.
Very good.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Bass line, check.
Yeah. I'm apparently in the mood for these walking up bass lines today.
Love them.
Okay. So, next listen. Listen for that soprano. And we should probably figure out what note the soprano is singing.
Should we just do that now?
Yes.
Okay. So, let's play that chord one more time. Is it almost too high for me to sing? What's the octave of that? Is this it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, scale degree?
Okay. I think it's 1.
Kind of hard to sing down, isn't it?
I couldn't sing down from that.
We're already down. It's 1.
Yeah, great. Great.
So, soprano.
Okay, I can't say that I got the entire thing.
Okay.
But I think I got to start.
Okay.
Like the first chord, we already discussed that the soprano started on the 1, right? So what I thought I heard was 1, 7.
Raised 7 or natural 7?
Raised 7.
All right.
And then back to 1. Right?
Yeah?
Okay, now here's where I get lost.
I think I may know why you have gotten lost.
Okay.
I'll just play the right hand here, okay?
Okay. So was it 1, sharp 7, 1, 1,
1.
and 1 again?
Yeah, yeah.
And then sharp 7,
Yep.
and then back to 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a real tricky thing to have happen, and a lot of people get confused when they're expecting the soprano to move,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't.
Uh-huh.
Right. So when we went, yeah, it's moving back and forth. So that's nice and easy.
Uh-huh.
So stays on that same note, you know. Don't ever discount that as a possibility. Especially if it sounds like maybe you just lost it. Like, well, where did it go?
Yeah.
It flew off into the ether.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it feels like it flew off into the ether, what it really did was not go anywhere. And that's a very common thing for people to struggle with. And then, you know, again, it continues to not go anywhere, right? Yeah. So, finally, it's not the world's most interesting soprano line, but, you know, what are you gonna do?
It's a proper voice leading, I imagine.
So yeah. So we have We have our bass line and our soprano line.
Okay.
All right, right?
Okay. Let's see. I'm thinking what I'm hearing is. Okay, so we know that the first chord is going to be a minor 1 chord. Now this next chord is going to be, we have a 2 in the bass and we have a 7. 2, 5, 7. It's got to be a 2 chord because, oh wait, the 7 chord does have a 2 in it. And the 2 chord has a 7 in it. Crap.
Yeah, so our strategy is not going to work really well at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I hate to burst your bubble, but a 5/7 would also have a 2 and a 7 in it.
Ah, that might be what's happening.
Yeah. So, well, is it a 5/7 though? Because does that sound like a major chord to you?
No, that sounds very diminished.
Yeah.
Not very diminished, but diminished enough.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm going to write a little circle because I know it's diminished.
That's actually not a bad thing. We know it's diminished. We could maybe even come back to that quality later. Where is it going?
I think we're going back to a 1/6 chord. Because it sounds like a 1 chord, but it has that 3rd in the bass.
Right. Yeah. So, as I said before, regarding that mysterious diminished chord, sometimes we have to think about, well, what does this function? Where is it going? We said it's going back to a 1/6 chord.
Yeah, okay.
So, what goes to a 1 chord?
More often, the 7 chord than the 2 chord.
A chord of dominant function.
A chord of dominant function, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Which would be a 7 chord. Right? We know it's not a 5/7, right? It's diminished.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and a 2 chord goes to a 5, not a 1. Right. So it's probably a 7 chord.
So I could have used my theory brain to get that one.
Yeah.
Right on.
Right. And sometimes using your theory brain in the right way. So 7 in first inversion, right? And with it's actually a 7/7, right? 7 fully diminished 7. 7 fully diminished 6/5.
6/5. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, if you're really following along. And there's our 1/6 chord. From there.
This is the minor chord. I'm in a minor key. And that kind of just leaves the 4 chord.
4.
Because as I look at my notes here, I'm seeing an F and a C, which is 4 and 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 chord.
Great. In root position.
In root position. And this is always fun when this happens.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yes, it is.
But that's just back to the 1.
Well, in what inversion?
Well, let's see here. Bass line is at G, so that would be second inversion.
So 1/6/4.
1/6/4.
To our next chord.
I'm hearing, all kinds of 5-iness.
5, yeah. So 1/6/4 chord to a 5 chord got a special name, right?
Oh, would that be the cadential 6/4?
That's a cadential 6/4.
I am paying attention. I am learning. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens, right? Yeah. So just to recap.
Okay.
1, 7, 6, 5, 1, 6, 4, 1/6/4 to 5/7 to 1. And of course, many theorists will consider that 1/6/4 to really just be 5 with a couple of suspensions. Yeah. You know, a 5 chord with 2 suspensions in it. Yeah. So.
Interesting.
There.
So it's funny because you don't think, when you think about the 5 chord, I tend to relate it to the 2 chord and the 7 chord. You think those all have similar chord tones, but you don't think about the 1 functioning as a 5.
Yeah, right.
Until you hear that cadential 6/4.
It's kind of one of these nitpicky little debates. Many theorists will tell you that is not a 1 chord for the very reason you just described.
Mm-hmm.
It is not functioning like a 1. There's no sense of rest when I hit that chord, right? You know, you can't say, okay, and then the piece is over there, right? You know, I tried just a minute ago, and look what happened. Now, you've got to get or the octave jump down. Because that chord is not functioning like a 1. It is, in fact, functioning like a dominant. And, if you think of a dominant with a 4/3 suspension, and also a dominant with a 6/5 suspension, you just think about them both. Both those suspension is happening at the same time. That's what's going on, right? So it may technically spell 1/6/4.
Yeah.
But many people will consider that. I've seen it written 5/6/4 to 5/3.
5/6/4 to 5/3.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. But meaning 6/4 to 5/3, meaning the suspension.
Oh, okay. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people, but then again, a lot of people say, well, it's the actual notes of a 1/6/4 chord. But, one of those little nitpicky things. Yeah.
Didn't know about that. New wrinkle in my brain.
Those are always good. So we're getting pretty good at the 7 chords at this point, I think, right?
I gotta say, man, and I don't know if this is just from having listened, from doing these podcasts and editing and hearing it over and over again, but I'm actually kind of impressed today with how well I'm picking up these chords.
Yeah, you're doing good. Practice. Exposure.
Yeah.
That's all it is. This is a skill you develop. It's not something anyone is just naturally better at than anyone else. It's just something that the more you concentrate on, the better you're going to get at.
Yep. And I find myself listening to music and actually applying some of these exercises, trying to pick out the bass lines and the chord progressions.
Which is the ultimate point, right? To be able to listen to actual music and say, oh, hey, they use kind of little thing here, right?
That's why we're here.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All for that one simple thing, just to be able to understand what you're hearing.
Just to be able to understand what you're hearing. And it is such an invaluable skill. Mm-hmm. It's one of those intangible things that will make you awesome. As a musician and as a music scholar. Your ability to listen to stuff and say, I know what's going on there.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have time for one more.
One more progression.
All right.
C minor.
C minor. Ooh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm recognizing this is a familiar motion.
Okay.
In the bass line. Mm-hmm. I believe I'm hearing a walk up from the 1.
I really like the walk ups today for some reason.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Na 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 na. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1.
Exactly.
Killer. Making the notes.
All right. And so soprano line then.
My weak spot. My Achilles heel.
First of all, that note.
That's the octave down from the soprano, but because I can't sing it. 3, 2, 1. I want to say that's a 3.
That's a 3.
Okay. Great.
E flat. All right, so here we go. Soprano line this time.
Okay. So, like you said, we start on the 3, and I think I detected some descending motion.
Yep.
So 3, 2, 1. Aha! That's where I thought it disappeared, but I went ahead and wrote 1 anyways, the same note. Same note.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
And then I think we had that same kind of 7-1-7 leading tone.
Yeah.
That unmistakable leading tone 1-7-1 situation.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. Something else might be unmistakable about those last 2 chords, too.
Okay.
All right.
So now I got the bass line, I got the soprano line.
Mm-hmm. So engage theory brain.
Engaging theory brain.
Chords.
Okay, so I'm thinking that there's a little bit of inversion action going on here for one thing.
Possibly.
First chord, of course, being the 1. Lovely minor 1 chord. Now this next chord, let's see here. We got a 2 in the bass. And a 2 in the soprano. Well...
It can't be a 2, though. The 2 would be a diminished, and that was no way that was a diminished chord.
I was gonna say, statistically speaking, it should be a 2, but because there's two, but these other 2 notes in the middle are, I guess, are gonna change that up a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
It's kind of a new sounding chord that maybe we haven't messed around with a whole lot.
It could technically be, I guess, just basing on having 2 scale degree 2s, it could be a 5 chord. But did that sound right? So, I mean, is that what happened? This is what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's an unnaturalness about that, right?
There's an alien.
Yeah. Or maybe a mixed Lydian modish thing going on about that.
You might have given it away.
I might have given it away.
But even before you said that, I was actually leaning towards the 7 chord.
Yeah, the major 7 in first inversion.
Right.
Not the raised 7 for minor, but the naturally diatonic occurring whole step below. In fact, it's that note, half step below tonic 7. And then
now there's that familiar 1-6.
That familiar 1-6.
Okay.
And this chord is probably going to be interesting.
Well, I have myself a 4 and a 1.
Yep.
So I'm thinking this might be a 4 chord.
But be careful.
Okay, let me hear it again. That sounds diminished. Is that diminished?
It sounds diminished to me, man.
Huh. Okay.
So
Wow.
engage theory brain. What is
Okay.
a diminished quality substitute for a 4 chord?
Okay, it typically substitutes a 2.
Yes.
Huh, okay. I'm gonna write that down.
And the fact that we have a scale degree 1 in the soprano means this particular 2 chord is some inversion of a 2-7.
Yes.
Right? Matter of fact, it is a... What is it? It is a 2 fully diminished 6-5.
Gracious.
Yeah.
You got me, Matt.
2 half diminished 6-5. I might...
Oh, half diminished?
Yeah, it's half diminished.
Right.
And then, of course...
I'm thinking this might be a little condensal 6-4
Yeah.
action.
1-6-4.
1-6-4. That's
1-6-5.
definitely a 5.
Yeah.
And a strong finish with the 1 chord.
With the 1 chord. Perfect authentic cadence, right?
All right.
So to recap,
Got
1,
one, okay.
diatonic 7-6. No. 1-6. 2 half diminished 6-5. 1-6-4. 5. 1.
All right. You devil, you. There's two places where you got me, actually.
Yeah, a little tricky there.
I was so sure that the second chord in the progression, when I heard a 2 in the bass and a 2 in the soprano,
Right.
it had to be some kind of 2 chord. Not so.
Yeah.
And then the chord, the next chord, not the next chord, but the chord after that was that 2-6-5. Well, on paper, in the bass and soprano, I'm looking at what appears to be an F minor chord.
A 4 chord, yeah.
A 4 chord, yeah. But those voices in the middle made all the difference, apparently.
Indeed, they do. And that's why we have to listen for quality. And that's why we kind of have to engage our theory brains, and think, well, a 4 chord is not diminished, so, what does a diminished substitute for a 4 chord in a minor scale?
Right.
Surety can be your enemy.
Surety can be your enemy.
Always second guess yourself. Always question, yourself. Always ask, is that a 4 chord? Because it can definitely help. And you can't always rely on, well, if there's a 2 in the bass and 2 in the soprano, then it's a 2 chord. That's a trap.
It's hogwash.
Yeah, yeah. Because think about it. Going from 1 to 2 is a very awkward progression, right? Yeah. Which is very difficult not to use parallel fifths in doing that. So that rarely happens.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Didn't even think about those dreadful parallel fifths.
Oh, yeah. I always got to worry about the parallel fifths.
Because even though this has nothing to do with...
making up chord progressions on the spot.
This is not a voice leading episode or a... what do you call it?
A counterpoint episode?
Yeah.
Every episode is a voice leading episode.
Because you are but you're following those rules as you're making these chord progressions.
Trying
now,
to. Don't go scrutinizing too closely.
No. But the intent is there. But going back to what you're saying, this is not a thing where you can just listen to your heart. You have to engage that theory brain.
Yeah, listen to your heart a little bit, but it's best when they work in tandem, as in life.
Oh yeah, okay. Man, we're getting all kinds of great kind of little philosophical...
Oh, yeah. Hey, there's so much more to music than just learning a bunch of notes.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
I hope that was helpful.
It was pretty helpful to me. I had a good time on this episode.
Good.
And I hope we helped you guys figure out those chord progressions a little bit better.
Yeah, and more chord progressions to come.
Indeed. Maybe we can tackle those medians at some point.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Good times. All right, talk to you guys soon.
Thanks again for listening. If you value the information we offer, please help us by sharing it with a friend or a fellow musician. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. Contact us at info@musicstudent101.com.